My parents disowned me when I was around 15 and kicked me out of the house for being gay and expressing political and religious opinions they disagreed with. Other than the occasional obscenity-laden phone call between us, maybe once a year on average, we don't speak. My parents are very poor and bad with money, and once, several years ago, slightly after my 18th birthday, tried doing something similar. Although it was for an amount of less than $200, and it was for medical living expense for my younger sister, who was a toddler at the time. She needed some over-the-counter meds and some things for school, and they did send me receipts. They never paid me back, despite promises to the otherwise, but I wrote it off at the time and told them if they ever did it again, I'd call the police, and I took protections to prevent something like it from happening again. Or so I thought. Recently, I had a confusing financial message, and a long chain of investigation led me to discover that someone had taken out a credit card in my name and spent over $8,000 in the span of 3 months. I froze it, but have yet to dispart the charges. Called my family and didn't actually think it was them, but checked before going, and it was. My mom told me that my younger sister, who I don't get to speak to often, had developed stage 2 lung cancer. My father is a smoker, which adds credibility to this claim. They cursed me out for demanding proof, but eventually let me speak to my little sister, who is 4, who told me that she had felt horrible and she'd been going to the hospital and missing school because she was sick and that they put wires into her. Parents called me a soulless duck when I requested any other proof, but they did send me a picture of my sister without hair, which had been badly done. This obviously sounds suspicious, but my parents do this for everything when you ask them a question about literally anything, and they always have to me. I remember my mom cursing me out for asking her what her favorite movie was when I was 12. At the same time, I don't have any trouble believing that they'd lie about this and shave her for the money. I asked to speak to her again and asked if I could ask her if they weren't the ones who shaved her, and they refused. They probably would have done this no matter. Financially, I don't care about losing the money if she really has cancer. I hate my parents, but I don't want my sister to be sick, homeless, both, and I'm cool wrecking myself with some debt for that. Already living in a shoebox and eat rice and beans out of choice, despite making decentish money while living in a super low COL area, because I'm frugal and wanted to save up money, so it's not like I have anything for them to take aside from my savings. As long as I can keep myself alive while working, I'm fine if she is. Is there any way I could confirm that a child in Texas who has cancer has? Long shot, but maybe some type of medical records would be in public domain or something. Parents won't give me any serious answers and have no social media and no records to speak of. I know my sister's kindergarten. If I called them, could they help me? If this ends up being fake, which I hope for, but find slightly unlikely, what should I do to get my money back? You should dispute this with the credit card companies now. You should be, figuratively, shouting at them at the top of your lungs. I didn't apply for this card. I didn't make these charges. You should also report this to the police and tell them what your parents did. Having a sick child, real or fake, is not a good reason to steal money from other people or commit identity theft or open accounts or make changes to someone else's name. Also, if the credit card was in your name, can't you see who the $8,000 was charged to? Call CPS. This doesn't sound right. It's possible that she has cancer, but it's also possible that they are manipulating her to justify their identity theft. It also sounds like they might not be getting her adequate treatment. Regardless, they're using a child to unwittingly help their identity theft. In all of these circumstances, someone needs to look out for her and protect her. CPS can do that. Update. I managed to have a friend get in contact with a neighbor who knocked on their door and spoke to them a bit last evening. No, she doesn't have cancer. Reporting it to the police and credit card company as fraud. About 3 years ago, my ex-wife and I divorced. We were married for 5 years. There were some problems in the marriage that I thought we could work through, but my wife insisted on getting a divorce. We have a beautiful 4-year-old daughter. Even though I wanted to work on the marriage, the divorce still went amicably, and we share custody of our daughter. We have a pretty good co-parenting relationship, and there is no hate towards each other. We frequently are in contact about our daughter and can have normal conversations. I make way more than my ex, so I do pay a significant amount of child support, but I don't mind it because she is still the mother of my child. When we got divorced, I still saw her as my wife, and I was still somehow hoping that we would get back together. But 2 months after the divorce, she told me she was dating again, and that made a switch go off in my brain. From the moment I knew another man touched her, she lost all value as a wife to me, and I was fully able to get over the divorce. So you could say that her actually seeing other people helped me move on. I only started dating about a year after the divorce, and I quickly met my current fiancé, who is truly the love of my life. From the start of our relationship, everything was great. We had the same goals, values, and future plans. After about 3 months of dating, I introduced her to my ex-wife before introducing her to my daughter. My ex always felt some kind of way about her because she was 10 years younger than her. The meeting went okay, but I could feel how tense my ex was, and she all of a sudden started acting different. She started talking about fun things we had done before our marriage and tried to give my girlfriend the image that we were still close, which is not true, and I cleared that up on the spot. Even her body language changed, and it felt like she felt threatened because she was so much younger than her. She did admit that my new girlfriend was a great woman and that she doesn't mind her being around our daughter. I then introduced my fiancé to our daughter, and they absolutely love each other. My fiancé loves being around my daughter, always plays with her, takes care of her, and does fun activities with her. My daughter also adores my fiancé and always asks about her and wants to see her. From the moment my ex-wife met my fiancé, she started acting different towards me. When I would pick up or drop our daughter off at her place, she would always be fully dressed with makeup on and everything. She would ask me if I wanted to come in because she just finished making dinner and wanted me to join them. I always politely declined. When my daughter is with her, she would ask her mom to FaceTime me right before bed so I could give her some virtual goodnight kisses, and that was basically it. But after she met my fiancé, my ex would try to start conversations with me after our daughter fell asleep, and would try to suggest activities me, her, and our daughter should do as a family, and how much she misses our family being together. I would always tell her that she's not my wife anymore, and that I don't want to do that. Everything in my new relationship went great. My fiancé likes posting on Instagram, and she would often post gifts I bought for her in her story, and my ex-wife would see them because she follows her. I bought my fiancé a set of diamond jewelry, and she posted it on her story. A couple of hours later, I got a phone call from my ex because she wanted to talk about our daughter, but really just start about my fiancé and I. She would say that she saw that gift and that she misses us together. She would start reminiscing on the past and tell me how great the time was we were together. I just told her that if she had nothing else to say about our daughter, that I was going. This would also happen with other gifts. I bought my fiancé some Balenciaga shoes she really liked for New Year's and also posted them on her story. I pretty much got the same call from my ex about our daughter, and I had to cut things short again. For our 2-year anniversary, I took my fiancé and my daughter on a trip to the Maldives. I planned out a proposal together with my daughter, and it went amazing. My daughter and fiancé were wearing the same dress, and both looked gorgeous. I also made sure the whole proposal was captured on video and photos. My fiancé accepted, and the experience was magical. Later on in the night, we took a look at the pictures, and my fiancé posted one on her Instagram. My ex called me, even though I told her she could only do so in emergencies. On the phone, she was bawling her eyes out, telling me that should be me, her, and my daughter in the pictures, not my fiancé. She told me that it kills her that I'm marrying someone so much younger than her, and that she feels old and worthless. She was begging me to take her back and to reunite our family. She promised that she would do anything and be the wife I desired. I told her that was never going to happen, that she should get a grip of herself. For pretty much the rest of the vacation, I had to turn off my phone because she wouldn't stop calling me. We are now back at our normal lives, but I'm conflicted about how I should go about the situation. How should I deal with my ex? How can I continue to have a healthy co-parenting relationship without my ex interfering with my fiancé and I? How can I make sure this whole situation doesn't have a negative effect on my daughter? First thing is have fiancé block your ex from seeing her Instagram. Stop fueling the fire. Good luck. She doesn't want to be with you. She just hates that you're happy with her. I gave birth to our daughter 2 weeks ago. I have red hair and blue eyes, and my husband has blonde hair and blue eyes. Our daughter has grayish-brown eyes and a tuft of dark brown hair, and is a bit darker than my husband or I. Both of my parents have very dark brown hair and brown eyes, as does the rest of my family. My mom's parents are from Sicily and my dad immigrated from Greece, so on the darker side of white people. But I got the genetic mutation for red hair. This is only relevant because my husband apparently does not understand genetics. Now, to make this perfectly clear, I did not cheat on my husband. He is convinced it is not his baby because of how much darker her complexion is. To ease his mind, I said I wouldn't be offended if he wanted a paternity test. I've got nothing to hide. But then he started insisting that I should have to get a maternity test as well. Yeah, in his words, he doesn't even trust me enough to trust that I'm the mother. I'm very confused. I've tried to explain to him several times that he was there throughout all 38 weeks of my pregnancy. He watched me go from no bump to being very obviously pregnant. I asked him if he thought that I had gotten someone else's egg put into me, and he just shrugged. I'm at a loss. I've been trying to explain genetics and why I don't need a maternity test to prove that it's my child for 2 weeks now. I just legitimately do not know how to get through to him. Even his mom tried to explain it. He's usually very smart. He's a software engineer. He has a master's degree and is planning on going back to school for his PhD. I swear that he usually isn't this dumb. I just do not know what to do. Please help me. I'm at a loss. I seriously don't know what to do. Can I even get a maternity test done? Do they have those? You can get a DNA test, and they will tell you for certain if your child was switched at birth. It's a thing. I mean, the paternity test comes back not his. Then go ahead and get the maternity test. But otherwise, if the paternity test says it's his kid, ask him who else is he ducking that could be the mom. That ought to shut him up quickly. Update. Long story short, my husband isn't stupid. He was just having a mental breakdown. I guess the stress of being a new father just kind of got to him. He didn't think or want to acknowledge that the baby was ours. He had his first therapy session for this yesterday, and hopefully that will help. Having a baby is obviously a really big change. Our sleep schedules are both messed up. Postpartum depression in men is a bigger issue than many people realize. I'm doing my best to provide him with a good support system while taking care of a newborn. I think he'll be okay in due time. But for everyone wondering, to sum it up, he is not dumb and he is not cheating on me. He's just going through a hard time right now. My husband and I have been together for 8 years, married for 1.5. Before we got together, he had a small thing with another girl. I keep saying small thing because he swears that's all it was, and I believe him. He said they hung out twice, kissed once, and right after they kissed, he realized she wasn't his person, and they went back to being friends. We met, started dating, and fast forward about 3 years when this other girl starts dating his brother. They were friendly with each other, but nothing suspicious or weird at all. I admittedly felt weird being around them both in family settings, but ultimately, no one did anything wrong, and after time, it started to lose its oddness. Fast forward about 5 years, and now we are married and they are engaged. They have one other brother who got married this past year, and this is where things get a little weird. We went to the wedding rehearsal and we had to squeeze past her to get to our seats, so my husband jokingly sat in her lap. She said, "Woo!" told me to come get him, and invited him to sit next to her. These things alone didn't bother me, but little occurrences kept happening throughout the night. She would turn away from her fiancé to have long conversations with my husband instead. Mind you, I was sitting next to him, and she wouldn't include me in the conversation at all, almost to the point it felt intentional. Among other little things, asking him about his favorite sports team, how our dogs are. At one point, she started playing with his hair. Again, none of these things were terrible things to do, but it was enough to make me uncomfortable. So on the way home, I talked to him about it and told him essentially how I felt a little weird seeing these actions given their history. And I asked him to distance himself from her for a bit. Not to avoid her or anything, but not to do things like jokingly sit in her lap. And he said okay. Feel it's important to include, when I told him how I felt, he felt awful. He started crying because he was so upset he made me feel like that. The next day was the wedding, and he tried to keep his distance, but she was all over him. It started again with weird small things. She attempted the isolated conversations, though this time he went out of his way to include me. Then she invited him to go to the bar and get drinks for the table. He invited me too. Then she started comparing him, and this is where I see the red flag. She started playing with his hair again and said something along the lines of, "Your hair is better than your brother's," and throughout the night, she kept going. She told him he was nicer than him. She told him he looked better in a tux than him. She told him he was funnier than him. All of which he basically responded with some version of thank you. On the way home, he was like, "I see what you mean. It's weird." His brother's and her wedding is in a couple months, and I am having so much anxiety. Not because my husband did anything, but because I don't know how to deal with this girl becoming family when I'm fairly sure she still has feelings for him. And neither of us know what to do to distance her. We thought about telling his brother, but we don't want to cause drama. And we thought about talking with her, but we aren't confrontational. I feel it's also important to note she and his brother do not have a great relationship. And I feel kinda shady saying this, but no one thinks their marriage is going to last. He cheated on her more than once, and we have heard her yelling at him in the background of various phone calls. Again, not adding this to be mean, but I feel like it might be playing into her actions. Like maybe she thinks she got the wrong brother or something, and I don't know where to go from here. Were it me, I'd discreetly, but firmly, have your husband tell her he's not comfortable with her behavior and finds it offensive that she'd behave that way while engaged. If she keeps it up, he or another more neutral family member should have a conversation with his brother about the things she says and does.